don't know. Also, that's kind of crazy if you're taking BC as a sophomore. Saying. All right. So we might actually have a slightly shorter than average call today. You know, maybe it won't go 2 hours. It'll be fancy. But mostly we're going to focus on the nuts and bolts of how to actually take this exam. So first of all, be a thumbs up or a thumbs down. Have you already taken an AP exam? And there are not that many of us yet. Hopefully some more of our friends will show up. Wow, yeah, there are more of you now. You've taken 2? No, I meant this year. Oh, my son says hi. He's on a call about ready to learn some 7th grade math from Mr. Dickey right now. Wait, so Liam, have you taken 2 this year already? Like online at your house? Also, are we recording? Yeah, Mr. Dickey is, I think that he's one of those math teachers who's like, I mean, I've only met him like 3 times, so I'm not an authority, but all your friends didn't like him. I think that he's one of those people that really, that really loves the subject, like, a lot. And, like, I get that. I totally get that. But I also try to remember that when I really love my subject a lot, I have to remember that it is not as intuitive to all of the other people. Uh, okay, so that's a good question. What email is the AP ID on? Whichever one you signed up with. So when you created your College Board account, for many of you, you would have done that as a freshman, but for some of you, you did it this year. If you created it this year, I strongly encouraged you to put your school email because that way you could access College Board stuff at school. But yeah, all the emails go to your parents. Like, yeah, you need to get control of your life, friend. Learning to drive is going to be good for you. Oh, okay. So the email goes to whatever email address you gave them. I'm not sure, but I think the window to change your email address is done. So you need to check your spam folders and you need to check your school folder because if I had anything to do with it, I would have made you put your school email. Okay, so yes, this is why we're having a meeting about this. So you have a College Board account and you should have already gotten some information about the test. And you have a College Board ID already, and that should be in this email that you should have gotten sometime in early May. They will send you, I think they're calling it the exam ticket, and they are going to send that to you 2 days before the exam. But pretend you're still not getting the emails. You're still not screwed. They will also post your e-ticket on your My AP Classroom, which I have made us use a couple of different times over the course of the year and is also the place where you had to say yes or no to the fact that you were taking the exam. I would also just double check to make sure that it still says that you're taking the exam, because some other teachers have had problems with students who swear to God that they were enrolled and then now they're not, and it's no good. And if that is your case, you're kind of up a creek without a. So here's what I'm going to recommend, though. Right now, I'm going to recommend that you have a paper and a pencil because we're going to make a little to-do, okay? Yes, your AP ID number is the one that tracks you as a person. So for all of your different tests, that's the number you have to put at the top of your paper with your initial. So it's kind of like when you get big and you have a driver's license, it just has a number and that number stays with you. Same deal. Yeah, Danny's on point with these screenshots. Thank you. All right, so hopefully everybody has gotten some paper and something to write with so that we can go through some different things. All right, so the first thing is that you are going to want to log into your AP Classroom account, and you are going to want to find your ID, okay? You don't have to do it right now. I'm not asking you to do it right now. You shouldn't do it right now. But that should be at the top of your list. You need to log in, and you need to find your ID. After you are done with that, I am going to recommend that you do the little practice demo test thing. I noticed up before our call started, Ella had posted a thing. Where'd it go? We have so many email, or we have such a long thread now. So let's see. So let's go in order from the section dated May 11th. Oh, wow, I totally thought today was the 11th. I guess it's the 12th. Yesterday, that was talking about the way that I'm scoring your DBQs, and then we'll sort of go down the thread from there. And then I will tell you when you need to put items on your to-do list, okay? All right, and also it would be helpful. Okay, it would also be helpful if you would put a little sad face with the new message I'm about to post. It says, I'm sad because I haven't gotten feedback on my DBQ yet. I am working through them slowly, more slowly than I would have thought. It's hard when you have two kids interrupting you pretty constantly. My daughter's making a face like, who, me? Even if they interrupt with fun things, it's still interrupting, and then I have to go back and concentrate again. So if you are sad that you haven't yet gotten feedback on your DBQ, please put a sad face. Here's what I'm trying to do. I am about probably 2/3 of the way done with the DBQs of the people who turned them in on time by May 1st. And then I'm going to go back and I'm going to do the DBQs of the people who didn't turn them in on time, because I feel like at least you get some benefit from turning your work in on time. So I'm going to do those first, but if you are especially anxious or desperate to get some feedback, please let me know so maybe I can try to ease your anxiety by working on yours first, because right now it's kind of like they're all on the screen and I'm just kind of like picking one and reading my email. Okay. Next, you should understand, and I tried to say this as nicely as I can, you should understand that I'm grading pretty strict, and I just had an interesting interaction with some folks on the teacher board because somebody said, I don't think this gets the context point, but what does everybody else think? And like 25 people have responded, and I said, no, I don't think that it gets the context point. And everybody else was like, well, I mean, it's not the most amazing context, but okay, so Luke, I haven't graded yours yet. All sorts of different kinds of feedback there. The Japanese goblin, perfect. Okay, so anyways, Luke, I haven't graded yours yet. I'm pretty sure yours is going to be okay, honestly, because you've shown up to all the things, and I've read a lot of your thesis statements, context statements, and I bet yours is fine. When you do get your DBQ back, I'm using the return function, so you will see that you will have a grade out of 10, and it will show up. There will be comments on the document itself, and in the little, no, really, the big post that I was just reading to you from, on there, it tells you what stands for what, but basically C is where your context is. So I highlight where I found your context and I put C. And then I highlight your thesis and I put T. And I show you where I think you earned the evidence 1, 2, and 3 points. And then I show where I think that you earned the sourcing points. If you earned the sourcing points, then where you earned the outside evidence points. And all of those things conveniently have different things, right? So there's sourcing 1, which is S1, and then there's sourcing, the second sourcing point, which is S2, okay? So there are direct comments right on your paper. Sometimes, like if you had a quote from one of the documents, I highlighted that and said, please don't do this. Please don't. I also point out that in my little thing about the rubric and how I'm grading it, that I am really trying to get these done very quickly. And I've been spending so much time on them that Mr. Krause and I just had an argument because he's like, why are you prioritizing student DBQs? They don't even care if you grade them or not. Like, and I was like, ooh, but I think they actually do. I actually think they want feedback. This is the one big chance they're going to get feedback from the teacher. Okay, so, but what I point out here in this post that I made at 10:02 yesterday morning is that overall, you guys are really doing quite well. There might be some people, like perhaps people who haven't turned the DBQs in yet, especially, who are really struggling. And I definitely want to talk to you. I'm going to stay on the end of this call. So for people who seem like maybe they need a little bit more intensive help, or maybe who I've noticed have been shy on the like on the small group calls, like we need to talk. So there should be several of you staying after the fact. Okay. The other thing is, though, like I was pretty straight to the point with my commentary. If there was something that wasn't okay, I just said, this isn't okay. There's no compliment sandwich. Like, I really like your word choice, but you did this thing that wasn't okay. But you had insightful analysis here. Okay. Like, it's so unfortunately your comments, because of the necessity of giving you the negative feedback, are going to be predominantly negative. And I tried to sort of give you some heart happiness and let you know that at the beginning of this year, none of you had ever written a DBQ in your entire life. I mean, unless somehow you borrowed one from an older friend and did it for fun, which seems pretty unlikely. So this is a totally, completely new skill set. Like, yes, maybe you wrote a thesis statement before, maybe, although broadly that's pretty new to high school students as a sophomore. Hang on, guys. Okay, the pita is above the eggs, and I don't know where the hummus is. It's in there somewhere. Okay, sorry. Watch. That is young Crousette, who is having to have some pita and some hummus. I know, Olivia, you don't even like hummus. I don't understand. Hummus is really good. Salt and oil and garlic. Okay, so anyways, talking with these teachers on the forum with the context point, basically the original poster was like, yeah, I didn't give the kid this point, but do you think I'm being too harsh? And 24 people said, yeah, I'd give that the point. And I was like, no, basically their context is just another answer to the prompt. So no, I wouldn't give it. So that lets me know that when I say that I'm grading strictly, I think I probably am succeeding at that, because what I wouldn't want to tell you is that something is going to count and then have it not actually count. That makes sense? So I'm not trying to be harsh, but I'm pretty sure that's how it's going to come up. Okay. Take a minute, read the rest of your comments. Hopefully you said important things. You wrote the Star-Spangled Banner. You wrote about watermelons. I wrote, have you guys read Game of Thrones? Like, not just watched the series, but have you read Game of Thrones? So I've read 3.5 out of the 5 books here during quarantine. I had read the other ones before, and I finished the last one yesterday, and I am so mad. So that's what I wrote about, was how mad I was that it just stops, and then, like, I don't even understand. Yes, you still can turn in DBQs. Non, I think I sent yours back to you and said, go ahead and attach your document. So go ahead and attach your document and resubmit it. It is not too late to turn in a DBQ, although know that yours is definitely going at the very bottom of the stack. Yes, Ella, yours is not yet graded. This is true facts. I'm also suspicious that yours is going to be fine, but I hope to get to it in the next 2 days. Yes, and apparently I'm not a very good companion when I'm reading a lot. I ignore everybody else, and they're literally like at least 1,000 pages each, so it's been a little rough on the fam. But like quarantine, like I can't live in 2020. I need to go back to God only knows when those were set. But like 2020 is just not working out for me right now. I need to be something else. Maybe that's why I like history so much. Okay, so compliment sandwich. I think you guys are all doing great. What I'm seeing, especially for the people who have bothered to show up to a bunch of these meetings, is that really you're doing great. Like, I'm really pleased at how many of you have shown up and been invested and been doing the hard work. And it makes my heart warm and gives me hope for the world. So keep warming my heart and giving me hope for the world, because like, look around, it's a little bit in short supply. Okay, the next thing down is Esther's post, and she posted this beautiful little graphic that says converting from HEIC, which apparently is default format in which all iPhones, or maybe just new iPhones, I'm not sure, but your iPhone will automatically, I'm pretty sure I just saw a tail up there, and there's some meat. Yep. Also, did she steal some? Okay, could you put it back in the microwave? Oh, these little beasts. She was trying to eat some steak. I mean, not that I blame her, but... Okay, so anyways, your iPhone will take the picture in the wrong format. So what you need to do is basically you can just email it to yourself. I mean, there's the thing that's on here, but there's another workaround if this seems like a bit much to you. You can just email the picture to yourself, and when it emails, it will get changed to JPEG format, and then you can upload it. So unless you have the exam open on your phone, maybe you have to email it to yourself anyway. When I did the demo, I definitely emailed the picture to myself and then uploaded it. Questions about that? Angela, that's so true. Um, um, right, there's a comedian, I think Jim Gaffigan maybe is his name, and they're doing dinner with the Gaffigans now, where basically they just have dinner and they tape it. Okay. Truth, you should do both. Like, that's the right number that you need, but everybody should go in and do the demo. So, okay. Make that the next thing on your list, right? The first thing was to sign into your My AP and find your AP number. The second thing is do the demo. Okay? That's the second thing on this list that you're making. And Angela, yes, this curse, may you live in interesting times. Have any of you guys ever right, that is laying on the laptop. Not this one, the other one. She really loves it. Okay. What was I saying? Oh, yeah, if you guys have ever read Slaughterhouse-Five, there's a phrase that they repeat in that book, which is life, friends, is boring. And I certainly have never found that to be the case. Life is awfully interesting. And yeah, and 2020 does not disappoint, right? 2020 is plenty. Okay, so let's continue down the list and figure out things that we need to know or things that you need to do. So first of all, you need to sign into My AP. You need to find your AP ID. You are going to have to put that on the top of your document that you're going to type your response into, or on the top of the paper that you're going to write your essay on. Okay, so you should, and you'll need that for every class. It's the same number. You'll need to go ahead and do that. Right. Wow, scrolling up and down the speed is very cumbersome. Okay, so Then there's the section where I posted a whole bunch of stuff. The first thing says that you're required to log in and mess around with the demo as your actual assignment this week. Also, I am going to make a Google form for your attendance. Please fill that out. It makes my life so much easier and ensures that I don't accidentally forget that your awesome self is on this call. Right, particularly because if you are, if you are invisible or whatever that mode is, I can see you on the left, but I can't see you on the right, and there's just a chance that I will forget that you were here, and that would be sad. So please fill out that form. On the form, I am going to ask you, did you do the demo? And then I will probably ask you, what did you write about? And you can tell me in less than one sentence what you wrote about on your demo, so keep it appropriate. And then I also posted some more DBQ stuff to practice with on AP Classroom as well. There's one that has a multitude of different writing questions, and it says just look at question 5. And then I made a quiz that's literally just different DBQs and different documents. You are welcome to do as many of those as you would like. I would recommend that you do at least one of your choosing. But even if you don't write any of them, it's really important that you go in and you actually read all of those documents. Why? Well, because you probably could stand some improvement at reading documents and reading documents for content quickly. That is literally, I don't know, there's probably 60 or 70 short little documents there, and those are all things that have been approved by the College Board. It also gives you a chance of the range, like a sense of the range of different kinds of AP questions. There's one in there, it's the one about the Portuguese and the Indian Ocean. That is the DBQ that was on last year's exam, which by and large, I think students thought they did better on than they actually did, because people could talk all about the Atlantic, but talking about the Portuguese in the Indian Ocean was a little more of a stretch. And you can take a look at the picture at the bottom of the box thing, and you're like, what even is that? So in that case, the last document was the one that tended to be hardest for the student. All right, so if you're looking at my post from 10:37 a.m. today, it says use the AP 2020 exam demo to practice and test your tech. So you definitely want to do this. You definitely want to create documents. You might want to experiment, because even though our test only has one question, they're pretending that everybody's test has 2 questions, so you can try to upload in different ways. You can see what the timer looks like. This is a good chance for you to think about if you're on a laptop, and actually give me a thumbs up if you plan to take the test on a laptop or a desktop. If you plan to take it on a phone or an iPad, please do nothing. Right? Well, actually here. Or phone or iPad. Let me know which of those you are planning on using. If you are on a desktop, you can split your screen. You know, you can have your document open, typing on one side of your screen, and you can have the documents and the prompt open in a window on the other side of the screen. That's probably going to be your best option. But you want to make a choice. You're going to have to decide what you are going to type your document in. The most popular formats are going to be Google Docs or Word. So let me know. Thumbs up for Word or thumbs up for Google Docs. Which one of those, or handwritten, you anticipate using. I will tell you one advantage of Google Docs is that it's going to automatically save, although hypothetically Word also auto-saves now as well. A disadvantage of Google Docs is that once you are done, then you have to go to save as, and you have to save it in one of the accepted file formats. So you have to save it as a .doc or a docx or a PDF or something coming out of Google Classroom. You won't have to mess with that. I'm sorry, coming out of Google Docs. You will not have to mess with that if you were typing in Word, because it will automatically save as a Word document. Then you need to figure out where you save this thing to. So if you have a file where you always save all your stuff, that might be a good place. You might also save it to your desktop. you really want to be careful to not save it to that downloads file that is Lord knows where on your computer, because that's kind of tricky. And I did find that even when I was saving to my desktop, like desktop appears as my choice of places twice, and one of them is the real desktop, and one of them, I don't know what it is, but it's not the real desktop, and there was nothing there. So while you are doing the demo, you really should practice and try to figure out where exactly you're going to save it to before you upload it. Also, please give me a thumbs up if you are taking the macro test, which is now before this test, but I'm not even mad about it because the test less than an hour, so you're not going to be too mentally taxed. And you don't even have to starve between lunches now. So you should make a choice about what format you're going to use. You should know this at least a few days before you actually take the exam. You can do the demo as many times as you want, so if you run into trouble, you can, figure out how you are going to avoid doing that. Also, is Lincoln on here? I haven't seen Lincoln in ages. Lincoln, if you're on here, send me a message. Also, like little tips and tricks, there's a third option for uploading besides uploading a document or uploading a photo. You can also copy and paste your thing into the College Board website. I don't recommend that if you have any way to avoid it. Okay? I don't recommend that if you have any way to avoid it, because if you put your number in the header of your paper, it will not transfer that, so then it will be missing, which would be sad, although apparently not catastrophic. But also it's apparently glitchy, so who knows what's going to happen to your formatting. I wouldn't do it that way. So what other questions do we have about the demo? Bottom. Almost there. Okay. I know, seriously, like if you, Truth, if you go back up and you look at all my documents like halfway through, I'm like, are you stressed out yet? This is stressing me out. I know. So the only good thing about this is that doing technology stuff under time constraints and pressure is like a thing that you're gonna have to do in the grown-up world, and this is that. I mean, really, and if all else fails, you can retake the test next year. And everybody's like, oh, that's not going to be a thing. You'd still have to pay. Well, there's really just your AP ID, right? There's the AP ID, and then you need your initials. Yes, Ella, they did say you can still get a 5 if you run out of time. So I think that certainly means you don't have to get a 10 to get a 5, and maybe not even a 9. That they really are trying to, they have deliberately created an exam that a reasonable cannot complete. Why? Because they do not want you to cheat. You aren't doing anything with your AP ID right now except writing it down so that you have it. And it's not just someplace on your computer. Okay. All right, so the purpose of you finding your AP ID right now is that you know what it is and where it is. Because what you don't need to be doing is at 1:38, when the timer is counting down until the prompt shows up on your screen, that you're like freaking out and crying because you can't find your AP ID. Not that you guys are crying, but you might. Okay, copy paste worked for Olivia, fine. Yes, so I'm with Cole. You can copy and paste. I mean, it's a thing you can do. I would take a look at the formatting. If the formatting looks bad, you can delete it and then do it the other way. But you've got some options there. Okay. Oh, wow, we are not fans of Microsoft Word. That is funny. I am so dead. I guess I should have. Okay. All right. You guys are brave. I would be very, very scared about typing this on a phone. And then I swear there's more than 30 people here. Lots of you vote. Uh, eh, okay. What's wrong with Euro? Oh, the test is tomorrow. Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, it doesn't really matter, right? Like, you guys just have an extra week to stress about it. All right. So now you have a second thing on there, which is to do the demo. Third thing, I need you to fill out your attendance form. Fourth thing, I would like for you guys to still do your small groups. I am not going to come to the small groups this week, right? Like, I ran the small groups the first week. I came 15 minutes late the second week. I came 15 minutes late the third week. And this week, it is all you. I will make some recommendations about what I think you should do before your small group here in a couple of minutes. But you guys definitely should still meet with your small groups, talk about things. You might want to think about studying. You might want to think about how you're going to study and how you're going to cover all of this different content. So as I'm going back over those documents, go ahead and maybe type in what you're doing to study besides just writing DBQs. Like, how are you going about reviewing the content? And how's it going with the study plan? All right. So back up at the top for the sections that I had posted. Advice about optional resources. And also, guys, I posted the link. Make this the next item on your list. Read the AP test booklet, the 51-page one. So that's where all this stuff came from. I just did like little screen grabs. This points out you can use class resources and class notes. They say that internet searches will waste your time and put you at risk of an exam violation. So they point out the more time you spend searching the web, the less time you have to spend answering exam questions. They point out that internet-based facts, research, and opinions aren't relevant to the AP exam and won't raise your score. Oh. Oh, that's fun. Yeah, actually, I didn't. So Mr. Krause just said something funny. I'll tell you in a second. But the College Board in the book says that not only will they be working to disrupt any people who seem to be alluding to attempt to cheat, they also literally said someplace that they're going to be putting out certain kinds of misinformation, which I just was like, wow. So you should definitely read the 51-page booklet and find the spot where it says that the College Board is going to deliberately try to deceive people, because that is kind of what I got from. But here, at the bottom of the advice about optional resources page, it says copying from websites, etc., is considered plagiarism and will be detected and scores canceled. Okay, so like, you have to be really careful not to do that. It looks to me, for most students that I have caught plagiarizing, in general, they ran out of time, they panicked, and so they cheated. Okay, like, this entire exam is predicated on the fact that you don't have enough time. So please, please, please don't resort to that, because like, they're probably not just going to cancel your score, but you'll probably take other AP tests, right? So like, they have your information, and the College Board still has to send your score reports, and they will put down either plagiarism or attempted cheating on your score reports, which is definitely probably going to disqualify you from scholarships. And only schools that are like, oh, cool, we're totally down with cheaters, are going to be like, yes, please, let's accept this person as the first round of our picks. Okay, so like, don't cheat. It's not worth it. It's not. Okay. Your testing environment, basic stuff. Remove distractions. If there's a do not disturb or quiet setting on your device, you should put it there. Let everybody around you know to leave you the heck alone. Make sure your device is plugged in. And then this one's important. If you have limited bandwidth, this is not a good time for other people in your household to be playing Fortnite or streaming Netflix, okay? That's just not a thing that they really need to be doing from 2 to 3 next Thursday when you're trying to take this test. And there is a checklist that you can print out, and they are advising that you print out their little checklist. Also, you can't have extensions. So if you have Grammarly on your computer spying on you every second of the day, because, I mean, it's a data tracking program, it provides a service in exchange for your data, but it's a data tracking program. You have to remove that. The College Board will not play nice with Grammarly. If you have the Grammarly extension, your stuff will not work. Also, not that anybody uses Windows Explorer anymore, but just in case you were thinking that you would, don't, because it's not going to work. You will see when you do the demo that instead of the clock starting at 45 minutes, it's going to start at 50 minutes, and then it's going to turn red at 4:59. Okay, and that's when you know I need to stop and start submitting. Please don't be that person who thinks that they're going to write for an extra 4 minutes and 30 seconds and then click that submit button on time. Like, please don't do it. Like, don't do it. Just, like, nothing that you can say in 2 to 3 minutes is worth the risk of getting a 0. Okay? And that's what's going to happen. And just because you were a chump and didn't hit the submit button in time, that is not an acceptable reason to retake the test on the June date. That is definitely not a thing you can do. Okay, so it shows you how to submit your response. I put a little screenshot of that. You need to be real careful. Don't click refresh or hit the back button arrow. If you are an individual who receives accommodations for testing, this doesn't apply to a significant number of you, but so if you don't know what I'm talking about, just be quiet and chill for a minute. If you were like, oh, yes, I was hoping that somebody would tell me about this, if you get extended time, your extended time should just show up on your timer and you should just get it. Okay? Now, pretend that that doesn't work, right? I had a student who was visually impaired, and every single year she was supposed to have some kind of accommodation on some kind of AP test. I don't think they ever got it right once. I really don't. I don't think ever. So say that you're supposed to have time and a half or double time or whatever it is that you're supposed to have, and that is not what happens. Please do your best, take the exam, submit it, and then submit an appeal and be like, you were legally required to provide me with this accommodation and you failed to do so. What you going to do about it? Okay. Also, if that happens, you would also contact Miss Romans at school, and she can help you navigate that process. What's next? If you need a scribe or a reader, the College Board in that big packet basically says get somebody in your house to help you. So let's hope somebody at your house knows how to be a reader and or a scribe, because that's pretty intense. It's not the most amazing way of dealing with those accommodations that I've ever seen, but here we go. And then at the end, at 11:43 this morning, I posted the link to the demo. I'm going to pin that for you. Okay. So that is now pinned. So you can go navigate to that quite easily. And then I'm heading back to where we are now because I haven't looked at your posts in like 6 minutes. Okay, so Jonathan, to answer your question, there will be a new attendance sheet. I haven't posted it. The one from 5/4 is for last week, so if you didn't do it last week, you should go back and do it, particularly if you do not have your T for present for attendance. Yeah. Okay. Wait, so what does Steve Heimler have to do with anything? Although I was going to recommend that apparently he's like on fire right now and he's posted a whole bunch of stuff. I haven't even watched it all, but he is really, really, really committed to helping students learn how to do this. And he's really committed to helping all students, not just the ones that they're paying him to teach, which I think is pretty darn awesome. And yes, trying to understand the documents does take time. Okay, internet-based facts and research. So what that means is that all of the facts you actually need to get the point, like with the exception of outside evidence stuff, is already contained in the test, right? The whole point, right? Your context, your thesis, the using the documents to support your thesis, the sourcing the documents, all of that is analysis. They want you to have a strong background knowledge, but with the exception of context, those are primarily analysis skills. There's nothing you can look up on Google that is going to teach you how to analyze in like 30 seconds. Um, oh, okay, so check this out. As far as an offline database, they also, yes, they did make Reddit threads for cheating, and a lot of them have been shut down. And I'm telling you, the College Board is like the CIA. You really just don't want to mess with them. You really don't. Given where you guys are in terms of your academic career, that would be a really, really horribly stupid idea. So here's the deal. Say that you created a shared online document with some friends, so you have a shared Google Doc. The deal is you have to download it and use it offline. Okay, you can't have multiple people in the same document looking things up at the same time. That's not allowed. You have to download it and use it offline. Then it's fine. You can collaborate on it before the test. You just cannot collaborate during the test. And like, please don't make me cry. Like, if you guys get busted for cheating, man, like that's gonna make our whole school look so bad, and you know that everybody like loves to hate us, right? They're like, these privileged people. Okay, like let's not give them that option. Yes, Anna, that is right. Yes, can you keep the rubric with you? You sure can. In fact, I would recommend that you print it out and you write the APID number at the top, and that you write down keywords from the thesis on it. So let's talk about this not being able to finish on time thing. I'm telling you, practice and only give yourself 39 minutes. Because if you can earn 6 points in 39 minutes, you are totally golden. You're fine. You can earn 5 points, you're probably fine. Like, after reading a bunch of these using this rubric, I really have a hard time imagining anything like, I think that a 4 would definitely be passing, and I think maybe even a 3 would be passing. I'm not sure. Like, that's kind of low, but I really think probably a 4 is going to end up being passing. Because it is hard to do all of this stuff in a short amount of time. And, you know, we've had scores, I think that I've had scores that have ranged from 1 to 9, but the vast majority of scores are 4 and above. That's mostly where we seem to be at. Some key eyes, I have ligma. What? Okay. And her write with a mechanical pencil. You rebels. So Ella, instead of getting them around the July 5th or July 6th, they said they're going to start to come out about the week of July 15th, somewhere in that time frame. Like, is that one of those words that adults are not allowed to say? If I'm not allowed to say that, I definitely need to know how badly I screwed up. Okay, so what else are you guys wondering about this test? I don't, but I mean... I will not hate you if you fail. I will not hate you if you fail. I mean, but also I don't think you're going to fail. Like, not only will I not hate you, I really don't even think it's that likely. Like, the vast majority of you are getting both your context and your thesis points. Oh, yeah, let me say this. So here's the thing. You're not going to get a 1. Your thesis has to be in your first paragraph. Several of you tried to make the thesis its own paragraph after the context statement. Don't do that. Also, if you are copying and pasting, please make sure that it doesn't mess up your formatting and make your thesis not be in the first paragraph. The way they say it, it has to be in your first paragraph or your last paragraph. The life of me, I can't understand why you would not start with it in your first paragraph. Like, that just seems insane. But please make sure that it is context, then thesis, then the end of the first paragraph. So yeah, I think that you guys, I mean, really everybody should be getting at least a 2. And then really everybody should be getting at least a 3, because you can write a context statement, you can write a thesis statement, and then you can discuss 2 of the documents as they relate to the prompt. Like 3 of those points are basically just kindly asking you to hand them over. Okay, everybody should be able to get at least a 3, and probably a good bit higher. Other questions? So we've established you're not going to get 1s. Like, I want to say last year, out of like 120 students, there were maybe 5 people who got 1s. Maybe even less than that. Maybe it was only 3. Like, okay. So I think you should be able to get at least 3 out of the 10 points without even trying that hard. Like, pretend that you got totally gummed up in the documents and then had a panic attack. I still think you will have time to write a context statement, to write a thesis statement, and discuss 2 of the documents. And if you can get those 2 documents to somehow support your thesis, then you have 4 points. Okay? Like, if you know how to write an essay and you understand the skills and you paid attention this year, you should be able to get a 4. If they use documents that you have already read, then you're in luck. What I will say is that big thing that I put that has, like, all told probably. Mr. Krause says you have a really good teacher if you've already read them. I mean, but when you look at some of the documents there, and this is like, it's like a scavenger hunt. You can pretend it's fun. Right. So a lot of the documents that I've given you guys recently that were teacher made have pulled from the set that I assigned you. So, like, as I was going through that I assigned with scare quotes today, I saw a lot of documents that we already had, but a lot of them are in larger sets, or they are not in the same question. So teachers have, like, taken them and combined them in different ways. I don't think you're super likely to see documents that you've already seen, but I do think that it's fairly probable that you will see documents that are very much like things you've seen. Like, if there's a map, it's probably going to have giant arrows, and it's probably going to either be the movement of people or some particular good, right? If you have something about colonization, there will probably be a source from some kind of missionary, right? Like, why would you have a DBQ about colonization that isn't addressing what the missionaries were saying or doing? If you have a DBQ that's about change in society, you might have something about people being burned at the stake for being syncretic heretics. Like, there's the whole point of this course is that they want you to see broad patterns within societies. So if you, for some crazy reason, get a DBQ on the Industrial Revolution in England, which is just stupid, but, like, pretend that you did, you've now read a bunch of documents that have to do with industrialization in other places. You've read a fair amount about industrialization in Japan. You know about industrialization in the United States. You really are pretty well prepared for this. Correct. The one about the Japanese worker girls. But I think that's great because they're young, they're not getting paid very much, and then, like, one of them dies. It's perfect. I mean, from your perspective. So I think that gunpowder empires is a pretty fair topic. I really would be surprised if they gave you an exclusively Industrial Revolution question because that's just too easy. Um, oh, it's great for analysis. It's great for illustrating the points. It's great for illustrating the points. It's not great that one of them died. That is the danger of being a history teacher. Oh, Mr. Krause. Deep thoughts with Mr. Krause here. Hold on.
Religious leaders writing the Industrial Revolution impact philosophical.
Oh, so he says that he thinks they'll try to give you some messed TF stuff, like they might give you an Industrial Revolution question, but then like, what if the document comes from a religious leader who's like either advocating for reform or like philosophically talking about it, how it's like destroyed the fabric of society or something? Oh, it was more than 4 years of work and death. It was a lot more. So I do, but I really like. I know so many people ask me that question that went from 1200 to 1900. Do I think there's a chance? Yeah, I do think there's a chance. Do I think that they're going to? Do I think it's going to hit multiple geographic areas? Very possibly. You know, a fun one would be like compare and contrast the consequences of imperialism, you know, in countries that were colonized versus the European colonizer countries. Like that would be fun. Wait, which one sucked? No, Hannah, we've probably gotten over most of the really truly essential stuff. Oh, the one that went from 1200 to 1900. Um, yeah, we didn't talk that much about Europe, but that is not by accident. And really, your European history can easily be developed. It's fun. It's there are interesting things about it, but like we just get confused because it's not the only important or interesting history in the global story, right? It's not the only one that matters. So let's talk about small groups this week. Do you want to look through it and each come with a different DBQ completed, or do you want me to tell you which one you need to do? See, I feel like I was gonna say if I feel like if I mandate it, then there's more chance of it actually getting done. And maybe there's a more fruitful discussion that you guys can have. Okay, give me a sec. Let me pick one. And I'm not gonna lie, y'all, I'm probably gonna pick a hard one. But it's good for you. Remember, no pain, no gain. Okay, so out of the million of you that are here, 5 of you want me to tell you, and one doesn't. That's the way young people vote in this world. Are you guys gonna vote when you get big? You should vote when you're big enough to vote. Be very interesting. Also, if you met some of your peers, you might want to vote just so that their votes don't count for as much, right? Because the more votes, the more people have say, and you can kind of balance stuff out. All right, so let's take a look at what we've got here. No, that's not. Yeah, well, and we know that, I mean, local elections, like, there were 5,000 absentee votes, and that's how much Bashir won by. So whether you love him or hate him, you can be aware that particularly local elections are quite close. There was a story of one dude who his wife got busy and she didn't go vote. She just ran out of time. This one candidate, yeah, he lost by one vote. So if she had voted, there would have been a runoff, but he lost. Yeah, he lost because his wife didn't vote. All right. What do you guys think? The AP website not the most user-friendly, or do you love it? Like, I'm trying to find the stuff that I assigned to you, and I'm struggling to find it. Also, how do we feel about Google Classroom? Like, is that working out for you all? Do you love it? Is it just a headache? What do you think? Sorry, I'm still here. Yeah, I just had to go through on my son's account and have him get like less emails because, well, and even I guess I had it set up so that every time somebody turns in an assignment late, I would get an email, and it was just like, when I told you that the due date didn't really matter, so half the class turned it in late and there were like 35 things, I would get 35 emails for every single one of you. It was rough. Okay, I am still looking for this nonsense. Um, okay, so you can write this down. I finally found it. So the title of the thing is DBQs for study and practice, and it's all caps except D lowercase because I don't know, I'm weird. And it looks like there are why is this one even in there? Okay. It looks like there are 10. Okay, so I want you to do question 4. The prompt is, using the documents, compare and contrast the attitudes of Christianity and Islam toward merchants and trade from the religion's origins until about 1500. So I guess that's 1500 years of Christianity and roughly 900 years of Islam. It continues. Are there indications of change over time in either case or both? What kinds of additional documents would you need to assess the consequences? Okay, so we're not going to, and don't do the what kinds of additional documents. Use the rubric that we have. This one is a 7 document doohickey, but you only, like, you can eliminate 2 of them if you would like. You can talk about more than 2 of them if you're, or more than 5 of them if you're desperate, but you can eliminate 2 of them. So let me post that and then I'll pin it. It is on College Board. Wow. Yeah, so guys, just be aware, like, you should double check that you have one of those tickets, because definitely there are some other teachers who have students coming out of the woodwork who apparently didn't notice 2 days ago that, and apparently never signed up for the test. Also, Ray, there are some people who clearly did sign up who, like, somehow ended up unenrolled, and it really wasn't their fault. Other teachers, or I've heard other teachers say that on the. And he's not on it. Lord. Yeah, if you have to ask your teacher what a join code is right now, that's not okay. Which was supposed to have started 2 minutes ago? No, they don't test till 4? Gotcha. All right, so this is a different kind of question. There it is. I will pin that so you guys can find it. All right. Let's see. Try to do that DBQ so your small group has something in common to discuss. I mean, Otis, it sounds like maybe the College Board has your name spelled wrong. Well, Angela, I couldn't hear you. Maybe my volume is off, but I couldn't hear you. And I do recommend that you read the rest of those documents. There's totally a lot of them. There are a lot of those documents, but you will learn things, like reading those documents counts towards a review. And I don't think, at the end of the day, I don't think I picked the hardest question that's in there. Number 5 is the one that they had last year. I think number 6 is pretty hard. And I think 10 is difficult. So 4, 6, and 10 are probably the ones you should pay the most attention to. Question 9 is literally evaluate the extent to which Christianity changed societies in Latin America, which is really close to the question that you guys just answered, only you guys got to answer maritime empires, so Christianity was like one of your several factors, but you answered a question very much like this in class, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, we've got the Inquisition trial. Yeah, so this one you've actually done, but I put it in there just so you can review it in case you lost your copy. All right, talk to you later, Otis. So honestly, my assessment is that you will get a broad question that is maybe like a twist on a topic that lots of people are very familiar with, but I think there will probably be a twist in the wording of the question. But yes, I think broad is probably good. So my prediction is broad but with a twist. So I think it'll be like some specific weird thing. And that's the other thing actually, is that with some of the essays I've been grading, occasionally we have thesis statements that are good theses but don't really address the prompt. So we need to be really careful with that. I don't know if I graded yours yet or not. If it has been returned to you, then I graded it. I don't remember offhand. All right. Talk to me about what other questions we have about the exam. Do you feel like you know how to take the exam? And yeah, we can do reacts for that. All right. And then you feel like you know how to write a DBQ. Um, so, okay. Yeah, I wish that too, Ella. And because, right, like you practice turning it into the College Board and they say, okay, you're done with your demo, but like, does it tell you that your document successfully uploaded? Is somebody going to read my little diatribe about Game of Thrones someday? Um, I wish there was a way that I could do that too. I mean, if we, if you guys want, we can pick a time and I can say, okay, start writing by at 9 a.m. tomorrow or at 9 p.m. tonight and turn it in by 10. But there isn't a way where I can use the College Board software. So I am sincerely concerned that way less people know how to write the DBQ than to take the exam. Is that a chicken? Is that a Mongol? The chicken looks especially like a Mongol. Yeah, it's a chicken though. Okay. So here is what I will say. If anybody has any last questions about the exam, like the official call portion of this is done. And then if somebody feels uneasy, I mean, yeah, Amelia, if that helps, I think that maybe it would make sense to do it tonight. And then I can just go through and show you. Yes, you can have other tabs open during the test. You cannot be in collaborative documents. So I guess here's what I will say, is that if you want to do a trial run, and I'll put this here, and we'll just have you submit it through Google Classroom because that's what I can do. A trial run at 9 p.m. tonight. Unfortunately, I can't like push out a timer, but take 45 minutes to write, 5 minutes to upload your Google Doc to an assignment that I'll create on Google Classroom. I'll do that right now. Well, yeah, since everybody really should do this for small groups anyway, so whatever number I said you had to do that I pinned at the top, do that one. I've got apparently running on my mind. trial run, not a trail run, trial run. And I will say also, I guess if I haven't given you feedback on a DBQ and you'd rather get feedback on this one, then go and unsubmit your other one so that I can easily understand which one you want to do. It's not any extra grading, Ray. Ugh. That's okay. I'm already scoring off of 6 different rubrics anyway. Okay, so classwork, new assignment. All right, there you go. There's an assignment in the instructions. I will put in, oh, I'm going to put a due date. Hold on. It will be due today at 9:50. Nope, today, not tomorrow. Okay, and that way it'll tell me if you turned it in late or not, and you can practice there. Well, I didn't promise I'm going to grade all of these. I'm still on the one plan per student grading situation at the moment because normally the feedback I give is not this detailed, and also half the time it's not legible. So, all right, other questions? All right, so if you know how to write DBQs and you're all good, you can go ahead and sign off now. If you are chilling here and you're like, oof, I really, really low-key don't understand about DBQs and I'm scared and I'm overwhelmed and I want to cry and I need you to explain it to me, then you should stay. I was going to say, I'm really confused because most of you are still here. You are welcome. Have a good day. All right. So it looks like we're down to a relatively fewer number of people. You are here to talk about the DBQ in general. So I'm going to just start talking and go over some really basic information, and then I will give you guys the opportunity to ask questions. I also see like at least 4 people on here who probably really understand, but maybe you guys just want to hear it again, so that's fine. I'm going to tell it to everybody else, so that's chill. Okay, so basically the first thing that you want to do is you want to open up your essay with a context statement. Your context statement, and like if you are here and if you do need this, you might want to be writing it down. Your context statement should be between 2 and 4 sentences. Your context statement, ideally, in a perfect world, talks about things that happened shortly before shortly before the time period that the question asks about, like maybe within 100 years before. So if it's asking about, I don't know, the gunpowder empires, you could talk about the Crusades as something that happened beforehand. You could talk about the Mongols, I guess. You could talk about how Europe is just coming out of its dark age, and you can talk about the Renaissance. But ideally, you're talking about either things that happened before or really different stuff that was happening in other parts of the world. So when you're talking about gunpowder empires, you could say during this time frame, Europeans were disseminating new maritime technologies, and they were just getting started on what's the word? Yeah, they were just getting started, sailing across the oceans and whatnot. Okay, so you want to start with a context statement. It's if you know things about the time frame immediately preceding the question, it's an easy point. Just write at least 3 sentences. Next item, thesis statement. So remember, your thesis statement should be, at a minimum, a historically defensible statement because of A, B, and C is the simplest way to do it. Your thesis statement needs to address the prompt. So a problem that a number of you had was on one of the essays that dealt with changes that happened in the Americas. A lot of your thesis statements dealt with changes that happened, but not changes that happened in the Americas. Or even your thesis was fine, but then your paper was kind of off. Okay. Another way that you can do your thesis is in spite of A, historically defensible statement because of B and C. Or B and C were still true. Okay, so those are your 2 basic thesis formats, but you have to make sure that it addresses the prompt. So there are several types of prompts that you are likely to get. So you might get one that is evaluate the extent to which. You might get one that says to what extent was A the cause of B? Or how were A and B similar or different? Or that one might be evaluate the differences between A and B, right? And even if they say evaluate the differences, it is totally legitimate to talk about some similarities as well. All right, sorry, back to the main thread. Okay, questions about thesis and context. And there's a small enough number right now that if you would like, you can unmute yourself and just ask your question. Yes, that is the way I would do it. And the reason that I would establish context first, then write the thesis, and basically that's all that's going to be in your first paragraph is your context. your thesis. So literally, you you write your first paragraph and hopefully you get 2 points. Like you're halfway to passing, or what I think should be passing. I think a 4 should definitely be passing, but that's just my personal opinion. So yeah, so 2 points in your first paragraph, ideally. Your third point, you're going to get, it's one of those evidence points, and it is the point for discussing 2 documents as they relate to the prompt. So you can still get that point even if you don't have a thesis or you have no... You talking to Jennifer? Sorry. So you get 2 points for discussing the documents as they relate to the thesis. So if you say anything that's correct about the documents, you somehow relate it back to the prompt, even in the absence of your thesis, you get 1 point. If you support your thesis with those same 2 documents, so instead of just mentioning them and addressing the prompt, if you discuss them and support your thesis, then you get 2 points. So you've written less than 2 paragraphs, or you've written 2 paragraphs, conceivably, you can have 4 points already. And that's even if you are not a strong writer or you don't really understand all that much about what's going on. That is for correctly identifying a context and communicating it, coming up with some sort of historically defensible argument, and supporting your argument with only 2 documents. That alone can get you 4 points. Another evidence point is available. Most people were able to earn the 3rd evidence point in the 3rd paragraph of their essay, right? So paragraph 1, context, thesis. Paragraph 2, discuss 2 or more documents and support your thesis with those 2 documents. Then paragraph 3 really should be discuss 2 more documents and support a different part of your thesis with those 2 documents. If you manage to support your thesis with 4 documents, you get another point. Okay, and that's the evidence 3 point. Okay, so that's sort of the basics. You can get 5 points by writing something that is very basic, and I just have a hard time imagining how a 5 is not passing. Okay. Questions so far? Up next, we're going to talk about outside evidence and sourcing. But do we have questions so far? Like, react so that I know that you're not all just away from your keyboards? Okay. So then you get to the part where you show off your analysis skills a little bit more. Let's talk about outside evidence. Your outside evidence has to support your thesis. Okay, yes, Shrita. You don't have to repeat the documents for the first and second evidence point, because the first point is designed to help basically the kiddos from Florida. Actually, yeah, no, and I'll give you an example here in just a minute. So the first evidence point is you can reference 2 documents and somehow say something about the prompt. You didn't have a thesis, you've got no argument, but like at least you're talking about the prompt with 2 documents. You get 1 point for that. If you are able to use those same 2 documents to support your thesis, you get 2 points for that because it's a much harder task. So yeah, so you get both points for using the first 2 documents. If you discuss 2 more documents and support your thesis, you get a 3rd point. Okay. Let me, and I'll give you an example here in a minute, but let me finish talking through the rubric. And actually, I'm gonna give you a link to the rubric as well because I should have already. Okay, so if you click on that rubric right now, which I would like for you all to do, we've talked about thesis and context. They don't list them there in the order that I think you should use them. If you were to print this out, which I absolutely 100% think you should, I would just draw an arrow, swap in context, put in context above thesis. Now, evidence. It says 0 to 5 points there. The ones that I was just talking about are they're below the really thick line and above the middle line. So the first point uses the content of at least 2 documents to address the topic of the prompt. Okay, that's bit 1. The green one to the right of that supports an argument in response to the prompt using 2 documents. Okay, so that's 2 points there, and then if you use the 4th point, that's the one that's underneath. So I call those E1, E2, and E3. Now, under that little line, it says evidence beyond the documents. The first one I call OE1, outside evidence 1, and the second one, no surprise, outside evidence 2. The evidence has to support your thesis. It has to be different from what you said in the context, and it has to not be in the documents. And by specific, we mean like really specific. So when we're talking about the essay where we looked at how maritime empires changed life in the New World, a lot of you said, oh, diseases. Okay, that is not specific enough. I need you to tell me that smallpox eradicated a huge percentage of the population, maybe as much as 95%. Yes, young Krause is helping. He just told me that smallpox eradicated a huge percentage of the population. Got a comedian over here. It's kind of sad that you guys will have graduated by the time he shows up in high school. I think you would make good role models. So examples that we've used when we talk about how social hierarchies were changed in the New World, one thing that we had discussed was the way that the Spaniards created a very detailed and complex racial hierarchy that definitely disadvantaged Native peoples and totally and completely disadvantaged African peoples. But that Spaniards from Spain were at the very top, and then white people who were descendants of Spaniards were literally above everybody else. And it was called the casta system, and we talked about those casta paintings that were painted by the government and then publicly displayed. So like, in case people didn't understand that they were lower class, this picture gives you a good evidence for understanding where you're supposed to be in society. That would be an example of how to earn the outside evidence point. Wait, what? What happened if you get held back for him? Was that meant for this thread? You know, he's pretty cool, but like you can just come back and visit, I would say. I think that you should probably still graduate. I would recommend it. I mean, I don't know though, like, right, if you get held back, public education's free. If you took all dual credit and AP classes your like second senior year, you could earn a lot of college credit for free. However, I don't think that the school's going to go for that. Okay, so that's how you earn the outside evidence point. The last 2 are fairly difficult. They're the sourcing points. Here they're calling it analysis and reasoning. Okay, the one at the bottom of the page is the unicorn point. Just ignore that. Ain't nobody getting the unicorn. Let's focus on reality. So the sourcing points are a little bit trickier. In all honesty, if you are confused or overwhelmed by all of the things that I have said so far, I would say that maybe you should be satisfied with the possibility of getting 7 out of 10 possible points. I think that that's got to be at least a 4 and very possibly a 5. Let me give you an example. I had a student who agreed that I could share their work, so let me get you an example real quick. Of that. And guys, what I'm literally going to do is I'm just going to copy the whole essay. Maybe I'm going to copy the whole essay. And I'm just going to paste it in. Why is this so hard? Stop it. Oh. Okay, so it's going to upload as a file, and then you can just click on it. Wow, this is going to be really annoying to read. Okay, that didn't work. Ignore that. Let me try something different. Okay, so I'm going to share a link with you all, and I'm going to paste it, and please just click on the link. All right, that is so much better. Formatting was terrible on the other one. It thought that it was going to put the whole essay on 4 lines, and we were just going to scroll all the way to the right forever and ever. So please go ahead and open that. We're going to talk about it. This essay scored, I believe, a 7, and I liked it because it was just to the point. Like, it's not fancy. It isn't necessarily super intimidating to where you're going to be like, oh gosh, that person is really so eloquent. I could never write like that. Like, this is a really, really approachable and effective writing style. And I think that for sophomores, this is great. This is where you want to be. All right, so let's take a look if I can find it now. Okay. So we start around 1450 to 1750, much maritime technology started to come, such as a compass, better maps, sails, and astrology. Now, technically, that should be astronomy, but that's not going to make the point go away. This increase in technology allowed for longer and sustainable travels leading up to 1492 when Columbus started to sail and landed in the Americas. Most of these maritime empires were from Europe and had many Christian ideals and also had greed for many of America's resources. So right there, that first 1, 2, 3 sentences is the context state, right? So we have better maritime technology. Columbus gets to the Americas, and the Europeans who showed up were Christian and greedy. Okay, good. That is fantastic. And then the thesis statement. Although this benefited the Europeans tremendously, it impacted the Americans greatly. And remember, the prompt was evaluate to the extent to which this impacted the Americas. It impacted the Americas greatly, okay? So that's the heart of the argument. The first part there where it says, although this benefited the Europeans tremendously, that's partition A. Your defensible historical statement, it impacted the Americas greatly, and then your following partitions. Some of these changes included mixed feelings about religion, the impacts of the Columbian Exchange, and the social system imposed on them. So this one's technically got 4 partitions, although if I remember correctly, the first one, although this benefited the Europeans tremendously, is significantly less and less focused on the essence. So this is not a long paragraph. But already this student has earned 2 points before even hitting return once. Questions so far? questions about how or why that counted? Or are we good? Okay. I'm going to assume that that means that we're good. Oh, Nan, go ahead. She's probably on the phone with Chazzy. Oh, okay, cool, thank you. All right, so next body paragraphs. Docs 1 and 3 show how religion was changed for the lives of Americans. So that's a good, strong topic sentence. And you can see that the person who authored this paper is grouping the documents together, which I think here, and it saves you time. Like if you had to write 5 different paragraphs about 5 different documents and like repeat stuff, like this person was like, no, combine them. All right. In document 3, the source of this is from a Dominican priest who felt that what the Spaniards were doing was making them sin. These sins were the desire for gold and turning their backs on Jesus. In document 1, it shows how religion was syncretic by combining the Lady of Guadalupe, which is an American thought of Mother Nature, and combining the Catholic ideals. While both docs show stuff about religion, they both have felt about religion. This shows how different people felt about the situation of finding the Americas. And document 3 shows that it made people sin more. And document 1 shows how people combined 2 religions for a way to spread Christianity. Okay, so already, does that address the prompt? Does it evaluate like how? Yes, it does. So it gets evidence 1 for addressing the topic of the prompt. And then let's keep reading the paragraph. Either way, both show how they imposed religions on the people in Americas, because document 1 shows how they forced religion on people by including something that natives already know. Document 3 shows how the Christian people have started to sin and are putting more pain on the people in America. Does that support the thesis? Yes, it does, especially the last portion of that last sentence, are putting more pain on the people of the Americas. Okay, so that paragraph gets 2 points. Let's go to the next paragraph. So that means we've got a total of 4 points so far. 2 in paragraph 1, 2 in paragraph 2. Documents 2 and 5 showed how the Columbian Exchange changed the people to introduce the Africans. Document 4 showcases a new group in the Americas, and in later years showed the result of slavery in the Americas. Document 3 shows the mistreatment of many natives and the eventual hate of the natives in the future. Both of these fuel a sentiment that many Europeans held at the time, which was a social group called castas. Castas placed white Europeans on top to the Africans and natives. This is why many of the natives and Africans got these harsh punishments and forced upon the Americans. All right, so let's see. We now have talked about documents 1 and 3, and we've also now had at least some discussion of documents 2 and 4. This is getting ready to earn that 3rd evidence point. It continues. Both of these fuel a sentiment that many Europeans held at the time, which was a social group called castas. Okay, I already said that. Document 2 talks about the resources that were being exchanged throughout the routes and who was involved, while document 5 shows the routes where silver was being traded. These 2 docs don't show one of the most important trades that happened over in the Americas. The thing that was referenced in the last sentence is a disease. Both docs don't mention this fact, but rather the resources, meaning the resources that were being used. About diseases is that Europeans were already immune to the diseases they were bringing over, so the disease with the natives of the Americas mixed. It led to millions of deaths. The disease led to 95% of deaths in the Americas, wiping out much of the natives, which is a huge effect. Okay, so in this paragraph, we earned the 3rd evidence point because now we have discussed, we've discussed at least 4 of those documents supporting the thesis, plus an outside evidence point. Okay, so far we've got 3 paragraphs and 6 points. Towards the end, documents 3 and 4 show the treatment of natives and the established social class that was imposed. Document 3 shows how a priest sees the treatment of the natives, calling it cruel and sinful. And document 4, it talks about how they're going to introduce the Africans. Document 4 showcases a new group in the Americas, and in later years showed the result of slavery in the Americas. Document 3 shows the mistreatment of the natives and the eventual hate of natives in the future. Both of these fuel a sentiment that many Europeans held at the time, which was a social group called castas. I think I missed a section of this. Give me 1 second. Sorry, hold on. Okay, so there at the end, that is the second outside evidence point. You know how I was talking about the castas early? That's where we see that in this essay. So even though, like, you can see there are some grammar mistakes and some words that weren't written quite right, you can also see how I was able to sort of totally just read past that and understand what was being communicated. That's the way the reader's going to read your paper. They don't really care if you've made some small mistakes. Like, that is really literally not the point of what's going on. That's not a big deal to them. So that last paragraph earns the second outside evidence statement. So there's no sourcing in there, but this document absolutely earns 7 points. It's a strong essay in the sense that it has followed the rubric and it's done the stuff that we need to see done. Okay. Questions about this? Like anything where you're like, I don't quite understand how that earned the point or why? Deji. So yes, but let me look a little more carefully. Also, the conclusion, this is why many men of the natives and Africans got these harsh punishments and hard labor forced upon them. That's part of it as well, right? And if you go back up and look at the thesis, which says some of these changes included mixed feelings about religion, impacts of a Columbian exchange, and a social system imposed on them, this outside evidence of the castas system supports the portion of the thesis that talks about a social system being imposed on them. So it's not just that it was said, like you could, wait, maybe I'm confused. Why does it earn a second outside evidence point? Let me see. So the first outside evidence point is the one about disease. Because, and I think it's specific enough that it's talking about 95%. My feedback to the student was, please just say smallpox. But I think that there's enough, right? We've talked about Europeans brought diseases. Europeans were immune to the diseases. The consequence of the diseases was millions of deaths. 95% potentially of the people in the Americas died, which was a huge effect on the Americas. So that one is supporting the part of the thesis where it is the impacts of the Columbian exchange. So it's still also supporting the thesis. Okay, let's take a look at the thesis. Deji, you're questioning because it seems a little bit vague. Okay, so it impacted the Americas greatly. And that was the prompt. Evaluate the extent to which it impacted the Americas. Does it respond to that? Yes, it impacted them greatly. And then the partitions, mixed feelings about religions, so the religions are getting mixed up, impacts of the Columbian Exchange, and the imposition of a new social system. And taken together, I mean, think about it. If somebody came to the United States and, like, even caused half of the people in America to change their religion, if we suddenly had, I don't know, say it's not global trade, suddenly we realized there was a whole bunch of people on Mars and we started trading with Mars. That would be a huge change. And if somebody said, oh, everything you knew about who was important in society before, it turns out we're going to turn that all on its head. The Martians are the most important people in society. And then depending on how close you get yourself to a Martian and how many generations of your family have been sleeping with Martians, that's how we're going to value you socially. Those are substantiating impacted the Americas greatly. And the reason that I picked this essay as my example is that, like, no offense to the writer, but this is not the most eloquent essay that I read. This is an essay that gets the job done. Does that make sense? Like, is it possible in the whole world to write a better thesis statement? Sure. And if we had the rest of our lives to write beautiful statements, that would be fine. But we don't. We have 45 minutes, and we want to get as many points as possible. So you need the thesis that gets the job done, not the thesis that you want, like, engraved on your headstone when you're dead. Where's Angela to, like, quote me on that? Other questions? So does it make sense how this is like the workhorse essay? Correct. And I mean, sure, the essay could have been more specific, but it gets the job done. And really to turn this out in 45 minutes for somebody who's 15, like, bravo. You know, if you are ultra gifted in English and you can write a more beautiful essay in 45 minutes, like, hats off to you, good job. But what the College Board is testing here is, can you evidence these skills? So Deji, I'm not sure if you were on the call the other day where I was talking about the hummus and the ketchup, but I was saying that, like, in this case, you know, if you eat crackers and hummus, or in the case of my daughter at lunch day, pita and hummus, really, like, nobody's, I mean, maybe some people, but most people are not like, wow, I'm just going to eat some dry pita because it's really fun and chewy. People take the pita so that they can dip it in the hummus because the hummus is really good. And ditto, some people like French fries all on their own, but, you know, a lot of people like French fries for dip sauces. And the point of the French fry Mr. Krause disagrees. Oh, well, okay, so my son seems to understand the process without even knowing. He says the point of a French fry is to eat salt. So forget about the ketchup. The whole point of the potato is to move fat and salt from someplace else into your mouth. And that's the point of your essay here. This isn't an English class. It's not. The point of your essay is to showcase the fact that you can make an argument and you can take historical evidence and support your argument in an intelligent way. Okay, so Christina, what this DBQ missed? We missed the unicorn point, which is I'm not even going to talk about. But that's the complexity point. So does the person at College Board think that you were magically complex? Yes or no? There's no way to train. Like, if you can write a beautiful, gorgeous, flowery essay in 45 minutes, maybe we can qualify for the unicorn point, but it's really not worth talking about. The other 2 points are the 2 sourcing points. So give me just a sec, and let me find an example of somebody who did a nice job sourcing. And this one, I know which one I want to use. And it broke my heart and also made me laugh because the student turned in the essay and said, sorry, this is, I stopped after 45 minutes. Sorry, this is garbage. and she got a 9. And I was like, well, I mean, I can appreciate that maybe this is not the work in your life that you are most proud of ever, but yeah, you got 9 points, so it must not be garbage. Okay, give me 1 second. This one I should just be able to copy and paste. And this is in response to the same prompt. Okay, so Shika, that's one way that you can get the sourcing point. So you can get the sourcing point by talking about the author, the audience, the purpose, or the historical context. Although I find that honestly, like you only have to do one of those things, but like I think that there is very little it's not very often in history where the audience and the purpose not align, right? Like usually the point is to persuade the audience, the purpose is to persuade the audience to do something. So it matters. Okay, so this is a different student, same prompt. Document 1 and 2 relate to the culture change of the natives. Document 1 talks about a Mexican woman called Our Lady of Guadalupe who was seen as a worshipped figure by Mexican people. However, the mention of the Catholic Church is part of the Maritime Empire's influence. The Christian faith was often forced on native communities by the Europeans because they felt the natives were uncivilized. This is the reason many people in Latin America still practice the Catholic religion. Actually, hold on. Maybe this isn't where the student earned that point. Hang on. Sorry, my bad. Yeah, my bad. So that's a nice paragraph, though, and it definitely gets the 2 evidence points. And in this particular instance, the student didn't do her sourcing when she first introduced the document. Okay, so the source of document 3 is important to refer to because it is written by a priest. This Dominican priest follows the Christian faith, which was inflicted on native populations by the Europeans. He talks about how the behavior of the Spaniards went against the teachings of Jesus Christ. This is interesting because the Spaniards weren't following the faith that they were forcing others to follow. Okay, so that's 1, 2, 3, 4 sentences about that document. And this student has really been able to comment that this document becomes more interesting because it's written by a priest. If something like this were written by a native, I mean, assuming that they were literate and able to write, that would be one thing. Like, of course, the natives would be like, you jerks, you want us to be Christians, but like, you're not loving your brother, you're letting us die, working us to death. Like, how Christian is that of you? You would expect a native person to say that, right? But this is a Spaniard. I think he's Spanish. Yeah. He's a Spaniard. He's one of them. He's at the top of the social class ladder, and he's still looking at other white people being like, bro, what would Jesus do? Because I don't think it's this. So that makes it a much more interesting document. In terms of whether or not we can trust it, well, usually we would expect Spaniards to be like, bro, you're a Spaniard too. Like, it's me and you. We're on team white dude. But this guy, he's not coming at it from that perspective. He's saying, ooh, maybe there are things that are more important between us, like common humanity as opposed to common skin color. Okay? And then the next one, and so keep in mind, this is the 4th paragraph of the student's essay. So student earned 2 points in paragraph 1, 2 points in paragraph 2, must have been, 3 points in paragraph 2, 3 points in paragraph 3, and then this paragraph earns the 2 sourcing points. So 1 point for sourcing document 3, and then let's see what we say about document 2. The sourcing of document 2 is also important because it's from a modern perspective. The document was written in 2006 and is obviously for teaching/learning purposes. Okay, right? So we've considered the historical context and the purpose of the document. This won't have any firsthand evidence and experiences that might help back up the point. However, the document does seem to lack the brutal parts of the Columbian Exchange. The author explains all the benefits of this trading of goods, but fails to include how many native populations were tortured and stripped of their cultures. And the last sentence is the one that really is the clutcher, which is that this may stem from a more ethnocentric point of view. So we don't know for sure, right? Like document 2, it doesn't tell us, is this person whose last name is Rees, R-E-E-S, is this person white? Is this person black? Is this person Mexica? Is this person of indigenous or mixed heritage? Like, we don't know, but just a thing that might be true that we might want to keep in mind is that can somebody tell Sue Truth that I'm still talking? Has he joined the call back? So anyways, I don't think he has. Okay. Hey, Sue Truth, we're still going over DBQ basics, but we're almost done. Okay, so the author shows a lot of the good things about the Columbian Exchange, but doesn't really seem to be showing the bad things. And this is like maybe for a school setting. So like, have you ever read a school textbook that's like, oh, the middle passage was really bad. Slaves weren't treated very nice. And you're like, that's it? That's all you're going to say? That, like, you're just going to say that they weren't, quote, treated very nice? Like, what's the point of having a textbook that says, quote, slaves weren't treated very nice? Like, the truth of the matter is that they were kidnapped, were captured and sold. They were separated from their families. They were held perpetually in a state of unfreeness. Like, you know, they weren't treated very nice really seems to downplay the damage that was done to those individual human beings. Okay? So does this help? Like, does this is a student-created example. Does this help you to understand a little more what sourcing looks like? Yes. Sure, that's absolutely right. Yeah, no problem, Amelia. So absolutely. Because like if Karen is writing on her anti-vaxxer blog about why you don't need to wear a face mask during COVID-19, like, yeah, okay, we can ignore what Karen has to say maybe. But if Anthony Fauci or Andy Bashir is saying, I'm wearing my mask not to protect myself, but to protect you from germs I might be carrying, that might be more of somebody to listen to. But even more than Andy Bashir, like, I would love to hear a doctor. I like to see the doctors at the Mayo Clinic wearing the masks when they're talking to their patients, right? Like, it matters who says it, for sure. So what does EOC stand for? And honestly, if I have a lot of crossover between, and of course, okay. Of course I knew that. But no, maybe I should actually look over some of the seminar materials, because it might, like, the idea that a certain point is more important if stated by a certain person is a really great way of explaining why sourcing matters in history. So maybe if we use some common language, it would make it easier for students to understand. Well, okay, does anybody else have any questions? That's basically it. That's all the points. You are welcome. You are very, very, very welcome. And by the way, like, I published that there should be a snitch line now, not really a snitch line, but like, if in your small group you graded an essay and you were like, oh, I don't know how to help you, friend, privately, please send me that person's name so that I can get in touch with them and find out if they really do need some more. Okay? All right. Fabulous. Thank you for staying and spending your time today, and we will talk to you soon.